All right, well, welcome everyone to the FreeFlyer Users Conference. We're so glad that you've chosen to spend some time with us this week. I hope that all of the panelists, all of the exciting talks are really beneficial to you. There is a survey that should come up at the end of your session. I really encourage you to fill that out. Let us know how we did. This is our first virtual users conference. We really want to make sure that we're hitting it on all cylinders, and we appreciate your feedback. I'm here to talk to you today as the FreeFlyer sales manager. I've been with FreeFlyer for 7-ish years now, and I've been started in tech support and then moved into sales, and have been just loving my time with the team because we have such a great product. And so today, what I want to talk to you about is the history of FreeFlyer, FreeFlyer's current reach, where we are in 2020, some of the missions that we support. I'm going to give you an update into our FreeFlyer University program, an update into our FreeFlyer certification program and the exciting progress there, and then go over our newest version of FreeFlyer, FreeFlyer 7.6, and talk about some of the features that we'll be releasing. Just want to add a note, there's a questions feature in the GoToWebinar software, and you can use this to learn more. So if you ask questions, Motaz, our moderator, will see those and we'll get them addressed. I'll either answer them at the end or they'll be addressed in the chat. So I want to start with a brief history of FreeFlyer. I'm calling it FreeFlyer's greatest hits. This isn't everything that we've ever done, but it is a good portion. So 1997, way back when, AI Solutions introduced FreeFlyer as a COTS tool at the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center with our first two missions, EO1, that's Earth Observer 1, and Terra. And then in 1999, our first FreeFlyer mission, Terra, part of the NASA Earth Observing System, launched to low Earth orbit. It launched in 1999 and it's still there, over 100,000 orbits later. In 2002, we released FreeFlyer 5.2, adding a lot of 3D visualization enhancement, attitude history file support, coverage support, as well as a generic targeter. Also in 2002, FreeFlyer entered the United States Air Force as part of the GPS LATO ground system, that's Launch Anomaly and Disposal Operations. Throughout 2004 to 2006, we made versions of FreeFlyer 5.6, which added a ton of capability, interplanetary support, network and dongle licensing, a file interface object, globals and macros. A lot of the ways that you use the script today started in this 2004 to 2006 range. In 2007, we released FreeFlyer 6.0, major upgrades to the UI there, really introduced the FreeFlyer experience that you and I know today. Also in 2007, DLR out of Germany made FreeFlyer an international flight dynamics tool of choice. In 2008, FreeFlyer 6.5 was released. This included the debugger, extensions, lists, and a massive expansion of our awesome help file. In 2009, we released FreeFlyer 6.6 with a major overhaul to orbit determination. And then in 2011, NASA Johnson Space Center chose FreeFlyer for the flight dynamics of the International Space Station. It's a huge deal for us, huge deal for the International Space Station as well, replacing Excel spreadsheets with our top-of-the-line propagators and analysis tools. In 2012, FreeFlyer 6.8 introduced matrix math, output layout control, and home screen customization, making FreeFlyer even more customizable to create that look and feel that you need for your operating system. In 2013, we released FreeFlyer 6.9, bringing FreeFlyer to 64-bit builds, and we also released a new, more flexible version of our FreeFlyer Ephemeris. In 2014, FreeFlyer was selected for the next generation TDRS ground system. The tracking data relay system for NASA is how humans and a lot of spacecraft talk to the ground. Also in 2014, the FreeFlyer team released FreeFlyer 6.10 and 6.11, that's 2 releases in a year, introducing the visibility calculator object, grid windows, and our execute only mode. In 2015, FreeFlyer 7.0 introduced Linux support, runtime API, TLE generation, and a UKF smoother. It's a huge release, obviously making it 7.0. but also bringing a lot more capabilities to a lot more people. Also in 2015, SYSIS Planitor became the first COTS tool to become powered by FreeFlyer. Powered by FreeFlyer is what we refer to as software that has FreeFlyer underneath, under the hood, underneath their tool, so that people can use FreeFlyer's analysis capabilities and astrodynamics engine without necessarily even knowing that they're running FreeFlyer, because it's built underneath other tools. Also in 2015, we launched our FreeFlyer University program. I have a lot more updates about that later. In 2016, we released FreeFlyer 7.1 and 7.2, again, a double release. And in this case, we introduced nanosecond precision, the RLP frame, as well as the while stepping and while maneuvering capabilities. In 2017, we released FreeFlyer 7.3, which introduced the square root information filter, orbit determination capability, as well as an RF link object. Also in 2017, Meridian, one of our wrapper products from FreeFlyer, was introduced with STPSat-6 and Landsat 8 and 9 as initial missions. You'll hear more about Meridian on Tuesday as we discuss FreeFlyer and operations. Also in 2017, we started our FreeFlyer annual lease sales, allowing more people to get access to FreeFlyer at more price points. In 2018, we released FreeFlyer 7.4. It was a huge release with Strux, spice propagation, DSN three-way Doppler, Linux visualizations, and a lot of interplanetary improvements targeted at university student needs. The ability to bring FreeFlyer down into CR3BP so that you can do the kinds of analysis that are in homework problems. We also expanded into several international reseller agreements in 2018, expanding FreeFlyer's footprint. In 2019, we released FreeFlyer 7.5, which brought terrain analysis, ground vehicle, and the ability to replay view windows and plots. That brings us to 2020. In 2020, FreeFlyer's reach has been expanded. Our university program continues to grow. We released FreeFlyer Level 1 certification and released FreeFlyer 7.6. I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these. We'll start with reach. So in 2020, FreeFlyer has reached over 40 countries since its release in 1997 in a lot of different ways, mainly through direct sales, but also our FreeFlyer University program, which allows students from almost any place in any country that are studying to use FreeFlyer for free for educational use, our several international resellers, and the Powered by FreeFlyer program that I mentioned earlier. Here's just a few of the customers and missions that use FreeFlyer today. So while you're looking at all of the icons on the left, as well as FreeFlyer being used on the International Space Station in the NASA Johnson Mission Control Center in the middle, I want to go over a few of our selected FreeFlyer missions. This is just a few of the well over 225 missions that have used FreeFlyer to date. I'll start in GEO. So in GEO, FreeFlyer has been used on the NOAA GOES program for the satellites NOPRS and will be used for T and U as well. In the Air Force, the ANGELS program used FreeFlyer for flight dynamics. And in the Space Force, the EAGLE program is using FreeFlyer today. In MEO, the GPS program uses FreeFlyer in its LATO ground system. And DSX, mission launched by a Falcon Heavy by AFRL, uses FreeFlyer as well. In low Earth orbit, the International Space Station, which I mentioned before, uses FreeFlyer for all of its flight dynamics. More recently, the Sierra Nevada Dream Chaser spacecraft will be using FreeFlyer for all of its flight dynamics needs as well. The United States Geological Survey Landsat 7, 8, and 9 spacecraft use FreeFlyer, as does Space Force's SBSS and ORS-5 missions. And finally, the DARPA R3D2 mission. And then finally, way beyond Earth orbit, out in HEO, we've got NASA's Magnetospheric Multiscale mission. Soon, NASA James Webb Space Telescope, out at L2, and in cislunar space, NASA's Gateway and Orion programs use FreeFlyer. I want to dive into just a few of these missions and talk about how FreeFlyer is being used specifically. So first, I want to discuss the International Space Station. The International Space Station, like I mentioned, started using FreeFlyer close to a decade ago, and they use FreeFlyer for trajectory propagation, acquisitions and look angles analysis, maneuver planning, frontal area modeling for drag calculations, as well as collision avoidance. FreeFlyer's use in collision avoidance on the International Space Station makes FreeFlyer a truly life-saving software. Next, USGS. The Landsat program has provided Earth's longest, most historic data set of Earth observation. Through the Landsat program, the United States collects imagery of every spot on the Earth every 16 days and has done so since the 70s. So it's imperative that this program continue successfully collecting all the images that it needs to. FreeFlyer is used to keep these spacecraft on track. They use FreeFlyer for orbit determination, trajectory predictions, view predictions, and maneuver planning, reconstruction, and calibration. Constellations. These are newer for us, of course, but several government and commercial companies are using FreeFlyer for constellation analysis. I can't provide too many details at this time, but multiple companies and agencies are using FreeFlyer for coverage analysis, for ascent and descent planning, maneuver planning, and collision avoidance strategic planning. So not only active collision avoidance, but also how do I design my constellation such that I'm minimizing the need to freak everyone out more often. We're going to have a whole day about constellations on Friday. I encourage you to tune in and listen to the great talks. Out in HEO, NASA's Magnetospheric Multiscale Mission, or MMS, uses FreeFlyer for maneuver sequence planning, reconstruction, and calibration. I say sequence because, as you can see, MMS is actually 4 spacecraft in its own tight formation. And every week, that whole formation, which is normally a tetrahedron, folds down into a string of pearls. And it takes maneuvers to keep all that functioning correctly. They also use FreeFlyer for lifetime analysis and intra-constellation collision avoidance via a GPU process, where we're taking FreeFlyer code and transforming it to a GPU so that we can make sure that the spacecraft are not going to hit each other every time that they pass through LEO. NASA's Lunar Gateway has been using FreeFlyer from the very start, and we're very excited to be supporting this mission. The Lunar Gateway, still under development, has been using FreeFlyer for mission design, station keeping analysis, and lifetime analysis. When we talk about mission design, if you look at the picture on the right, they've actually been using FreeFlyer to determine where the windows should go, so the astronauts don't have to look at just blank space all the time. So they make sure that they can see the moon and the Earth while still maintaining thermal constraints. Tune in Thursday for Dr. Diane Davis's talk about NRHO orbit maintenance. The James Webb Space Telescope, soon to be launched, always soon to be launched. We'll use FreeFlyer for trajectory predictions, view window predictions, maneuver planning and calibration, and uses FreeFlyer today for launch window analyses. So those are just a few of the missions that have been using FreeFlyer and a little bit about what they do. On Tuesday afternoon, the OSAM-1 mission and the Meridian team will discuss more about how FreeFlyer is used for operational ground systems. Now I want to give you a brief update into our FreeFlyer University program. So the good news is that more than 3,000 students across 150 universities have used FreeFlyer since we introduced the program. This has been growing exponentially. Through the university program, FreeFlyer Engineer is available free for educational use. AI Solutions partners with aerospace engineering departments and student design teams to make sure that we provide the best experience possible. Part of that is providing an over 200-page university guide, which helps you reinforce concepts using the software, not teach software using the concepts. This saves time for professors and makes things easier for students. That university guide we're very proud of. It was written by students for students. Our FreeFlyer interns every summer make updates to that university guide so that we can make sure that it's student readable, student understandable. I mentioned that we do it every summer. Let us know what to add, what's of interest to you if you're in the educational field. Under the university program, we make network and node-locked licensing available per semester as needed. We have a student spotlight program that allows students to turn in to us their FreeFlyer projects and show off how they've been using the software. And we'll select a few of those and put them on our website and our social media to blast out those students. We also have our FreeFlyer summer internships. These are highly competitive. We have only a handful of interns that come and help us make the software better. We usually release those summer internship applications in December, so be looking over the next few weeks. I mentioned there's over 150 universities. Here's only some of them. This is a little bit old image that I need to go and update. You can imagine how long it takes to pull 150 university images. So if you want your logo added, contact me and make sure that you're using FreeFlyer at your university. I also want to update you on our FreeFlyer certification program. FreeFlyer certification tests your ability to understand and use FreeFlyer. Level 1, which was launched in March 2020, has enabled many to show off their understanding of FreeFlyer fundamentals. Level 2 is being planned for next year. And let us know which parts of FreeFlyer you want us to cover first and release certification for, as we're still figuring out exactly what order we're going to do everything in. FreeFlyer certification is free and utilizes content taught in our FreeFlyer Fundamentals training module or our Fundamentals series on YouTube. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, we have 3 Fundamentals videos that cover over 90 minutes in total, and it teaches all the basics of how to use FreeFlyer. The certification test is online, free, and contains multiple choice and practical examples where you'll build scenarios in FreeFlyer to show us that you know how to use it. So I recommend to everyone get certified and then show off that certification on LinkedIn. Here's mine. The last thing I want to talk to you about is the release of FreeFlyer 7.6, our big release for the year, and just some of the features therein. Our first big feature is optimization support. Optimization is great for trajectories, but it allows you to define any objective function for any use. You can specify any number of optimization state variables, any number of constraints, equality, inequality constraints, whatever you need. You can specify scales, weights. You can specify derivatives, either Jacobians or gradients. You can, when you specify derivatives, you can leverage known analytic derivatives to improve speed and convergence for the optimization. We support SNOpt, NLOpt, and IPOpt. For NLOpt and IPOpt, FreeFlyer fully supports them. We have all of the optimizers under the hood ready to go. For SNOpt, you need to provide your own DLL and license. Then you can use SNOpt directly in FreeFlyer. FreeFlyer's optimizer can be called directly through the runtime API, allowing you to use it for any number of situations. Tomorrow, we're spending the day talking about optimization at 12 and at 1 p.m. Eastern. I highly encourage you to come and learn more about this very powerful feature. We've also introduced a whole slew of relative motion capabilities in FreeFlyer 7.6. What we've done is we've taken the Hills-Cohesi-Wiltshire, so those are the Hills equations with the Cohesi-Wiltshire linearizations, EOMs, and we've built them into our new HCW propagator. Using that, users can convert relative spacecraft states between Cartesian and our new curvilinear reference frames, LVC, RIC cylindrical, and RIC spherical. We've included a relative motion utilities object that allows you to compute delta V for rendezvous and proximity operations maneuvers, as well as predict future relative motion. We've also included new orbit wizards, and these enable you to configure spacecraft in common relative motion flight patterns. I've included a picture on the right of those orbit wizard flight patterns that you can introduce with just one line of code. But there is just a whole lot more to learn about this, and so on Wednesday at 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. we'll be walking through how to use these capabilities. Please tune in. There's a lot more in 7.6. I'll mention just a few things, and then you'll have to download the software to see all the hundreds of things that we've added. One is plot styling. We've given users the ability to set a plot series color palette and background color palette. We've given you the ability to set text style for all text on a plot all at once and configure markers and line styles for all series at once as well. So this makes plots a lot more usable. It lets you make them professional for your presentations much more easily, as well as make them in dark mode as seen here, or anything else that you need for an operational use case. You can do it with just a few lines of code. We're not teaching plot styling during our conference this week. It's all in the help file. However, I would encourage you to watch Michael Volley's Starlink talk Friday at noon, because he is an avid user of these plot styles, and you'll see a lot of what I'm talking about, as well as learn a lot of cool things about Starlink. And then finally, many more features. In 7.6, we now support network licensing within Docker containers. We've improved error reporting and tracking with a new diagnostics object. We've improved JSON parsing and exporting when working with nulls and complex types. We've added a new file system object that allows copying and deleting files, as well as copying, deleting, and creating directories directly on your local machine. With these two capabilities, you can really use FreeFlyer to run that operational flight dynamics ground system with ease. We've exposed the F10.7 solar flux data, AP and KP values used by the Jakia drag model so that you can use those. And we've added a new static constants object, which provides access to commonly used mathematical and physical constants. You don't have to define pi by yourself anymore. It's built in. So that's a little bit about what we've been up to in 2020. This year, we've built on our 25 years of heritage to make FreeFlyer the best flight dynamics tool for space mission design, analysis, and operations. I've walked through a few of the capabilities that we've added, but Cody in our next talk is going to thoroughly discuss the features and capability of the FreeFlyer software. So if you're new to FreeFlyer, if this is your first experience, please tune in to understand more about what the software can do for you in different use cases. And if you are experienced with FreeFlyer, also tune in so that you can help yourself understand how to explain FreeFlyer to people so that you can more easily use it on your next mission and get another copy or whatever you need. FreeFlyer is used all over the world, supporting over 225 missions, and is also used in over 150 universities to teach the next generation of aerospace engineers. We think that FreeFlyer is the best tool for spacecraft analysis for astrodynamics, and we hope that you would agree by the end of this talk at least, or by the end of the week. FreeFlyer is continuing to evolve to meet and exceed industry needs and expectations. As the industry changes, so do we. We have whole days devoted to lunar missions and constellation discussions Thursday and Friday, the hot topics of the industry. Encourage you to tune into those. And then finally, we're constantly improving FreeFlyer with great new features and support coming in FreeFlyer 7.7 in 2021 and beyond. Our product manager, Sarah Fields, will discuss this more at 2 p.m. today. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that I've given you a brief overview of FreeFlyer's state of being in 2020. And I encourage you to stick around all week and learn more about how FreeFlyer is being used today, how you can use it even more effectively, and what we're planning for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael, for such a comprehensive session. We got a chance to see FreeFlyer's history, FreeFlyer's notable mission, the new features that are being added in FreeFlyer, and also learn about the certification program, the university program. We do have some questions for you, and I would like to note to everybody that we have till the next session at 1 p.m. Eastern. We have all of that time to answer your questions, so please feel free to use the chat box and write us any kind of questions that you have. So Michael, the first questions for you are how long does it take to take the certification level 1 exam?
Thanks, Motaz. That's a great question. For our certification exam, we recommend a couple of hours for the multiple choice section. The multiple choice section is open book. We're not trying to trick you. We're not trying to make you fail, but we do want to make sure that you're understanding how to use the software. So that multiple choice section, I would allow a couple of hours. And then we have a few problems that you have to open FreeFlyer and build up mission plans and test out. And that part will probably take you a couple of hours as well.
That's great. Thanks, Michael. So we have a little bit of a technical question here. How is FreeFlyer used on the MMS mission, which you briefly talked about, for formation flying?
That's a great question. So FreeFlyer is used as the main flight dynamics tool for MMS. So it's doing, ephemeris generation. It's doing maintenance, product generation, and then they're doing maneuver planning. And they do maneuver planning in sets of 4 or sets of 8 for the 4 spacecraft. So all the spacecraft kind of move almost in unison. And so they use FreeFlyer to plan all those maneuvers and then look at all the data and do maneuver reconstruction and then maneuver calibration as well. And then finally, FreeFlyer on the GPU that I mentioned is used for that FreeFlyer intra-constellation collision avoidance. So every time either you maneuver or you go down through LEO and the constellation folds down into a string of pearls, there is a slight chance that one of the spacecraft could come too close to one of the other spacecraft because they have these very, very long booms to measure the magnetosphere. And so we use FreeFlyer in a GPU to run hundreds of thousands of test cases in a Monte Carlo to make sure that those spacecraft aren't going to hit each other with the motion that we've planned.
Wow, that's a lot to absorb right there. The MMS mission is very unique and has a very special ground system, as you mentioned. So thanks, Michael, for talking more about that. We got a questions line coming in. So are there line styles also available in the graphics overlays?
Are there lines what?
Are there line styles also available in graphics overlays?
Yes, you can draw lines. You can draw lines, words, images, icons, as well as build-in fields with the graphics overlay object, and you can attach it to any number of objects to really add a lot of flexibility to your display.
Okay, thanks, Michael. So regarding to using FreeFlyer on not just Windows but other operating systems, when will FreeFlyer be available for Mac?
That's a great question. We are hard at work enabling cross-domain support. We're figuring out the right way to do that. FreeFlyer, as you know, if you're a user, is built literally with Windows in mind for a Windows experience, and it's been like that since 1997. With FreeFlyer 7.0, we introduced Linux support, the ability to take a mission plan that you've already written in Windows and then run it in Linux, now with visualization as well in FreeFlyer 7.3 and 7.4. So you really have a lot of power to use FreeFlyer operationally in the Linux operating system. And instead of just taking that Linux capability and porting it to Mac, we're taking a step back, making sure that that we really are keeping all of our users in mind. As Mac use grows, we want to figure out how to take that full IDE experience and really make that cross-platform. And so we're just figuring out the right way to do that. Sarah will be on it too, and she is in charge of the entire future of FreeFlyer, and she knows all those answers.
All right, thank you, Michael. We have one more for you. Can FreeFlyer be used to simulate tiny objects like meteors, stream particles?
Yeah, that's a great question. FreeFlyer can be used to simulate any object. If you know, if you have an idea about where it is and where it's going, you can model it in FreeFlyer. One thing that we do in FreeFlyer is model some of those tiny objects through things like dispersal analyses, explosions, things like that, by modeling a Gaussian field of particles and then tracking that the propagation of those over time. So you can do that kind of analysis directly in FreeFlyer, and there's a sample mission plan to that effect.
Thank you, Michael. And I would like to note that you can contact our tech support team as you try to implement exactly that, and they will be able to assist you and walk with you every step so that you can get to that objective. So Michael, so far I think we have a few more questions. They keep coming in, and please, we got plenty of time for everybody. Just share your questions. We're happy to answer them. And how can students get FreeFlyer for free? I believe you mentioned it's been growing and a lot of people have been getting it. So how can a student do that, or a professor get his students to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So we work with professors often to help them introduce FreeFlyer into their coursework, and it works really well if they're able to introduce it into their on-campus software packages so that it's available in labs or on a server or anything like that. And so we'll do network licensing, and we can provide any number of licenses that the professor needs to make sure that the entire class can use FreeFlyer. Now, in COVID and in different situations, sometimes that doesn't make sense, right? Sometimes you can't get on campus, or the VPN isn't good enough, or anything like that. And we're there to help. So the FreeFlyer team is providing licenses specific to student computers during COVID to make sure that you can be able to use FreeFlyer. So if you're a student or a professor and you want to use FreeFlyer for educational use at no cost, go to http://ai-solutions.com/register. That's ai-solutions.com/register. And then you'll be able to enter that you're a student, where you're a student at, how you're planning to use FreeFlyer, and we'll be able to hook you up with a license.
Thanks, Michael. That's been very clear. So I love how you spelled out the URL link. This question is for our international audience, those who are trying to get access to FreeFlyer abroad. You've mentioned that it's come off ITAR, I believe, recently, and it's been growing internationally, and we have some partners and stuff. So can you tell us, how have you been able to expand internationally since 2018, and how people can get access to FreeFlyer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So FreeFlyer is available because of the ITAR rule changes in the 2016 timeframe to the satellites code section 15 section of the ITAR code. And that allowed us to bring FreeFlyer as a satellites product off of the ITAR list. So now we can distribute FreeFlyer to most people in most countries for most uses. We still, as a United States company, have a duty to make sure that people are using it for good purposes. But if you're a student or a civil organization or a commercial company, in most situations there is no problem getting FreeFlyer to you.
Thanks, Michael. And are there any export controls at the moment on the software?
There are a few export control laws for a few specific countries, and it's the same kind of export control laws that are that govern most things, that are technical. And that's covered by United States statute. And so it's just a handful of countries.
Okay, thank you. So this is the last question we have. If I would like to request a feature on FreeFlyer, how can I communicate with you? What's next?
That's a great question. And we'll be talking to you about that throughout the day. If you are interested in something showing up in the next version of FreeFlyer or down the road, there are so many ways for you to let us know. First of all, if you're an active FreeFlyer user, talk to your account manager. So that's Mark Godin, Motaz Abdelazim, or myself. And we will record that for you. You can always contact tech support. That's techsupport@ai-solutions.com and submit your feature request there. And however you tell us, we track it in the same place. So if you really want a feature, let us know. We'll give it some upvotes and see what we can do.
Thanks, Michael. I see one more question came through, and that is from a student. He says that he has an active license that will expire after 6 months on January. So how can he renew that? And I'll just answer that really quickly. So you just send us an email and get it renewed. It's that simple. We can, for university students, we issue licenses that are valid for 6 months, and they are just one email away from being renewed, as long as you're a student. So
yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, we provide licenses on a semesterly basis. We can't just give you a license that lasts forever. My boss would not be happy with me. So so we just ask you to check in every 6 months or so and make sure you're still a student, still using the software for educational use, and we're happy to renew that license for you.
Thanks, Michael. Good news is we keep getting some great questions, and I'm not gonna we're gonna take all the time that we have with you. So these are a little bit more technical. Is that terrain model also available for the moon? And if it's not, then when will it be available?
That's a great question. We don't currently support native terrain modeling on the moon. We have a couple different ways for you to visualize terrain on the moon, and there's even a couple of 1 or 2 YouTube videos on our site that do that. And so we can walk you through. Our tech support team can help you, figure out how to do that if you're looking for a visual solution. For an analysis solution, it's a bit more tricky. We're working on supporting that in the next few releases. However, if you're interested in it, please let us know. The more people that are interested in features, the higher prioritization we're able to give those features with our limited developer time. There's only so many hours in a day, and we want to make FreeFlyer as useful to as many people as possible.
That's great. Thanks, Michael. So one more we have is, can we use FreeFlyer for aircraft flying pattern formations?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a little nuance to the answer. So FreeFlyer, as a space product, we model the motion of spacecraft. We don't model the physics motion of aircraft. However, if you have a pattern formation, if you have an ephemeris for that aircraft, you can then model that aircraft using our ground vehicle object or even a spacecraft object, and then do contact analysis, coverage analysis for that aircraft. And there's a sample mission plan in the ground vehicle section that covers that.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, it's great. FreeFlyer is focused on astrodynamics and the space domain, but some of the features that are in there can also support you in modeling other assets, whether it's in sea or air. But it's not that dedicated tool for these other domains. It's more focused on space. So we have a really good question that came through. How is FreeFlyer used for debris removal? What are the capabilities that are in there that can help you tackle that problem?
That's a great question. So debris removal is a hard problem. Active debris removal, it's something that is very exciting to me. I wrote my senior design project way back when on active debris removal using lasers. So it's something that I've thought about a lot and continue to think about. I'm a big fan of efforts like deorbit and astroscale to start using active debris removal as a solution. The biggest thing that FreeFlyer does for active debris removal, and the most important thing for debris removal as a concept, is to not create more debris. And if we want to continue to have clean space, that's how it starts, by being good stewards of the spacecraft that we have and the space environment. And so FreeFlyer is used for collision avoidance on dozens of missions, trying to make sure that more debris doesn't happen. For missions like active debris removal, you can use FreeFlyer's new relative motion capabilities to really model how to best to approach that piece of debris. you can use the Gaussian models that I was mentioning earlier to model debris fields that might be caused by impacts, or to model the debris that is too small to currently be cataloged or modeled elsewhere. And then you can load in TLEs or any type of other data files of people that are tracking those debris, and you can bring that into FreeFlyer for that analysis. And then finally, you can do maneuver planning with your ADR model and sim capability to figure out how best to size your fuel and your swap needs.
Loud and clear. Thanks, Michael. And I believe there are a long list of mission plans that are in FreeFlyer that can help people learn how to do that and practice and communicate with us in case there are any questions. So can FreeFlyer be used in the analysis of the orbiting of a CubeSat?
FreeFlyer could be used, yes, for deorbiting a CubeSat. We can model. You can model drag using several different atmospheric models of the Earth, and you can feed those models with accurate data from NOAA or elsewhere, or you can use the data that we have, which is not like a day-by-day data set, but is still accurate for longer periods. And you can model the lifetime of that CubeSat, how long it's going to be up, when it's going to start to get low, and then you can use FreeFlyer as a decent model, down to about 60 or 70 kilometers. When the atmospheric forces start taking over, that's when FreeFlyer's native modeling capabilities will be limited. But that's even low enough to be able to generate a, for a large spacecraft, or depending on what your CubeSat's made of, you can generate a, an ellipse of where the spacecraft could land or impact. But usually for CubeSats, it all burns up anyway.
Yeah, we are. I think that that pretty much answers it. So yeah, you can use FreeFlyer for CubeSats or any kind of spacecraft and deorbit it. We got a very interesting question. Can FreeFlyer be used to propagate solar sails, and what are the limitations for that? So
solar sail modeling, yes, FreeFlyer can be used for almost anything. FreeFlyer has a custom force model that allows you to inject your own force modeling into our existing force model analysis for, like an RK78 or something like that, propagator and integrator. So you can, calculate those solar sail forces and have that become part of your force model. As far as SRP modeling in general, we use a cannonball method in FreeFlyer. We are actively looking at implementing other SRP modeling. And so if that's something that is of interest to you, please let our team know so that we can, I believe we're in the early planning stages for how to handle that now. So if you let us know, we can definitely incorporate your use cases as we're planning that new feature to make sure that you're really getting the best bang for your buck.
Sounds good. So I'm glad that more questions are coming in. What is the relevance of incorporating spice propagation reference frames?
The relevance of incorporating spice propagation and various reference frames. So spice is a JPL format that you can use to go grab ephemeris or position and velocity information for any number of celestial objects, but in addition, more and more spacecraft objects as well, as JPL continues to expand the use of the spice format. So with FreeFlyer's support of that, you can very easily do any sort of interplanetary modeling by bringing in all that data instead of just defining those positions and velocities yourself.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Michael. Michael is the sales manager, so he has a very strong technical background. But up next is Cody Thompson, and he's the FreeFlyer project manager. I would argue that Cody is one of the few people who know FreeFlyer the best on this world. So he will be able to dive into these questions in more detail, and we'll be speaking to FreeFlyer's capabilities and give you a very good overview. Michael, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great session. And now we have, I believe, 5 minutes to the next session. So we're going to go ahead and pause the meeting. As more questions come through, we're going to answer them through text or come back to you, Michael. But at the moment, I would recommend everybody to perhaps go get a cup of tea or coffee or a glass of water. And we are going to see you in just 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.